In this video, I'm going to cover a book I recently discovered called Kundalini Exposed, Disclosing the Cosmic Mystery of Kundalini. It's written by Santata Gamana, which is his pen name. He doesn't claim himself as a guru, as the guru is within each of us. I found it to be a no-nonsense and straightforward book. It takes a lot of the negative and misrepresented aspects out of the experience. Santata writes, "It's not an actual serpent, it's a metaphor. It's not an entity or a deity. It's like electricity in a house that travels through all the different wiring that are comparable to your nervous system. To run a supercomputer, you need more voltage than normal. Prana is the life force that is equated to electricity. For those of you that might not know, prana is the breath, which is considered the life-giving force, the universal energy." He also writes that we need to go through a purification process before the Kundalini awakens to bypass any strong side effects. But many of us didn't know this because we were unaware of what was happening. So we go through the purification during the process, which can include the dark night of the soul. I'd be interested to know how many of us have this experience without consciously seeking it, as opposed to those that do seek it consciously. It seems that for some of us, it's just our time, ready or not, trying or not. The book explains levels of the symptoms from 1 to 10, from no negative side effects to something like being bedridden. Back when I was looking for information on what was happening to me, I found a video of this man that was bedridden due to extreme back pain, and he recorded his videos from his bed. I wish I had kept up with him to see how he's doing. The author explains that just because a beginner has no previous meditation experience, this doesn't mean their system is level 0. It can be dormant and quickly adapt to a high level, 6 to 8 for example. We need to take a broader vision and recognize that a person's spiritual history is not confined to this lifetime. So this backs up my theory that it's just our time. We can't know a person's spiritual timing or capacity based only on what their physical life is now or how they appear. I'm quoting, "The levels of Kundalini awakening correspond to the chakras. Some people awaken the Kundalini involuntarily. For example, due to past life spiritual practice, a near-death experience, tremendous suicidal depression, or a combination of these. Many people don't even know that they have an awakened Kundalini and instead might think they are crazy." There were a few times that I went to a Kundalini yoga class, not even understanding what the Kundalini was, and I still hadn't made the connection that it was my Kundalini that had awakened. I don't know if this was good for me or not. Even when I attended the first class, I didn't know that it was Kundalini Yoga, but realized it was different than what I was used to. The instructor had such a beautiful energy that I continued with a few more classes, and several times had something unique happen. In one class, it just popped into my head that she was going to have a baby, and when I told her, she shared that she was indeed pregnant. Another time, the sensation in my crown was so strong that it was concerning to me, and I experienced a bright violet light. It felt hard to lift my head off the floor, and I had a sensation that's hard to describe. It's not dizzy, but it's like a sensation that takes over. He says that we might even acquire temporary supernatural abilities, but those too will pass. We should enjoy those experiences, but not get too attached to them. But in my opinion, when we have these experiences, some might pass it off as Kundalini psychosis, but there are legitimate experiences, and in my opinion, shouldn't be dismissed as delusional. The author makes the point that consciousness is that which is conscious. Is the body conscious? The brain? No, nothing is conscious by itself except consciousness. Whenever you perceive or experience anything, you're doing so with consciousness through the lens of the mind. It pervades every perception and experience. This means consciousness is like a movie screen, while all objects are part of the movie. The mind creates the movie itself. The screen of consciousness is always there, even in unconscious states. What is not there is this personality that we believe we are, whose source is the mind. Although consciousness always remains unmanifested, it has the potential to become anything. It is through the cosmic energy of Kundalini that consciousness manifests." End quote. I've heard this many other times about it being like a movie screen and that we are the projector. He talks about how the treasure within has been given many names, one of them being enlightenment. This subconsciously creates the mistaken notion of something far away, something impossible for the common human to attain, something that is not present in ourselves already. But this is the ego trying to hide and elude from us our peaceful, natural state of beingness. He writes that as human beings, we base much of our understanding of life on our direct perception and knowledge, both of which are brought about by the five senses. I feel it, I taste it, I see it, I hear it, or I smell it. He explains the types of consciousness. Superconsciousness, where there is no sense of I, its oneness with the whole. Conscious mind, where there is the sense of I, of an individuality. Unconsciousness, where there's no sense of I, like in general anesthesia, fainting, deep dreamless sleep, etc. When someone consciously dissolves the I, that person does not come back the same. What comes back is not even a person. New insight, new knowledge, and a higher level of awareness opens the doors of the supreme wisdom. When the egoless state is permanent and effortless, one is truly enlightened. Everyone has their own idea of enlightenment. Who is it that determines a person's enlightenment? Is it an experience, a knowing, a constant state of bliss? Is a constant state of bliss, being egoless, even attainable on this earth plane? I understand it's an inner experience, but can you be part of a society and hold on to it? Or would you need to be sequestered away as many gurus are? Is enlightenment simply an awareness and not a constant state of bliss? There are those where source seems to flow right through them. They can talk on many subjects that they've never studied, but the information just comes forth. Have you heard of Edgar Cayce, who was called the sleeping prophet? In his sleeping trance state, he had wisdom and knowledge beyond our understanding and helped thousands of people. I, along with many others, have access to information that's beyond my physical self, my knowledge, or my intelligence. I believe that since everything is energy, the information is always there, and we can tap into it or grab it. It's what many call the Akashic Records. Another thing that Santata explains is that, contrary to popular belief, our mind is not wholly in the head, but rather is spread throughout the body, sometimes even expanding beyond it. Traumas, fears, emotional contractions, and repressions are stored in the energetic place within the subtle body. Even small things like a foot massage or practicing specific asanas, which are yoga poses, can relieve the emotional stress that's been stored up. He believes that by doing the correct practice, we can remove the blockages, especially at their root. For some, the awakening of Kundalini can temporarily bring unwanted consequences, but there will also be positives that will outweigh any negatives. The less positive symptoms are related to the fire, which can be things like rage, aggressiveness, headaches, etc. The number of side effects you may experience is always dependent on your level of ripeness and spiritual maturity. Some Kundalini awakening signs might also be totally unexpected and seemingly unrelated, ranging from extreme apathy to antisocial tendencies, from sensory overload to feeling like you don't live in your body, from sudden jerking movements to losing all your strength and falling on the ground, yet staying conscious of everything. Some may be unable to cope with the sudden discharge of Kundalini energy, as their perceptions and worldviews get an unprecedented level of transformation and refinement. To reduce any unwanted side effects, it's best to let the body slowly get used to the new levels, end quote. Like I always say, don't fight it and don't try and rush it. He says to reduce the unwanted side effects, let the body slowly get used to the new levels of energy that will be generated. Headaches, irritability, burning sensations, or a heavy head might be symptoms of too many head-based practices or forcing the breath retention too much, end quote. I experienced the heavy head, but I wasn't doing any practices. My friends even came to recognize the sign of my head dropping. We could be anywhere, out to lunch or in a car, and for a long time, I didn't know the real cause of this symptom. Santata says that we must channel the new powerful energy in the right way, with auspicious thoughts and motivations, always upward toward the highest centers. The energy can either become a source of tremendous desire, lust, and aggressiveness, or it can lead to emptiness, peace, and bliss awareness. This depends on where your thoughts and energies are flowing and being stored. So again, your perspective of this entire experience is vital. The awakening of the Kundalini energy might be too premature for many people. A higher intelligence knows exactly what it's doing. Above all, it depends on your surrendering and earnestness. Due to the tremendous power this practice generates, it will unlock a lot of unconscious pollution you might have accumulated throughout this life, or others, including deep-rooted fears. These can be painful to experience, but on the other hand, there will also be many incredibly blissful experiences to compensate. Remember that liberation is freeing yourself from ego constraints. Here are his recommendations for grounding: interacting with nature, walking barefoot in a forest or on a beach, connecting with animals or trees and plants. These will help to discharge the excess energy. They are very peaceful, easy, and joyful ways to get grounded. Swimming in the sea also has a similar effect. Eating heavier food or in larger quantities will make your system expend extra energy on digestion, which means it will have less energy for spiritual purposes, thus lowering any side effects you might have, end quote. I've noticed that when I'm not grounded, it makes me hungry, and when I eat, it does diminish. I'd be careful eating larger quantities as a solution, though, as it can lead to weight gain, and it has for many of us. He also recommends sleeping properly and doing 15 to 20 minutes of asanas, which are postures, per day, and our 30 to 45 minutes of body weight or weightlifting exercises twice a week, which will help reduce any side effects by 90%. This is interesting to me because when this all started, I was heavily into fitness, weight training with personal trainers. I was going to cycle spin classes, jogging. So unbeknownst to me, this may have been diminishing some of the symptoms. If this information resonates with you, the book is available on Amazon, including Kindle. I love reading information regarding the Kundalini, as I like to compare it with my own experience, and it brings me to a better understanding of the process. I'm not an expert, but I believe that no one individual knows everything, and that we can each have our own unique experience and help each other. Also, if we experience something that no one else has, or if we don't experience something that others have, it doesn't mean we didn't have a legitimate experience. As always, we should take what feels right to us, use our own counsel, and leave the rest. Do whatever's working for you, feeling your way through the process intuitively. I have found the process to be a mixed bag of frustration and amazement, with lots of different emotions. It's different for each of us, but I can tell you that for most, it does even out. It does get better, the symptoms lessen, and some go away entirely. There will, however, be continuing symptoms due to the energies that are constantly streaming through us as part of this ascension that we're all going through. In my last video, I shared some of my guidance, which was, this is not a passing thing, so settle in and buckle up. And remember, you're not going crazy, you're just waking up. One last thing I'd like to share from the book, and I quote, "Genuine spirituality is not about improving our personality or personal development. It's about destroying the illusion we have of ourselves." This makes sense to me. We're already perfect as source, as spirit. It's an illusion that we're not, and we have to peel off the layers of illusion that have been built up, layer upon layer. That's why an awakening is said to be a dismantling. Self-improvement is obviously a good thing, but it's not necessarily spiritual. It can become part of the process as an awakening experience shines a light on our emotions and behaviors, and we begin our healing and balancing our emotional and physical body. We want to get back to our true nature. Hang in there, my friends. It's all for your soul, spiritual growth, and a much greater purpose than we can even comprehend.